District Congressional slot, along with David Curry, Patrick, Paul Brown. Any of the rest of them here that I'm missing? Okay, they're here. So Mitch Swan is going to come, and Mitch, you come and share with us tonight.
All right, thank you so much, Gordon. I appreciate that. What's that?
Bottle of water if you need.
Oh, buddy, thank you. That's high class. I'm gonna hydrate for you all. All right, thanks, my friend. As many of you know, my name's Colonel Mitchell Swan. I'm a 30-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, full-bird colonel for 9 years. I came in under Ronald Reagan. I got out under President Trump. And I had a lot of great experiences in all those years, in those 3 decades. I got to craft U.S. policy in the Middle East from 2010 to 2012. Prior to that, I ran all operations as the director for the Joint Operations Center of Pacific Command. That's 200 million square miles, 38 nations, and a lot of different languages. I'm coming to you tonight because I'm a little upset what's going on in the world. I'm a graduate of Marquette University. I also have an MBA from Chaminade University. Was that like speak louder? Or?
No, all my family's from Marquette. They had graduated from Marquette.
Oh, outstanding. All right, more about Marquette in a second. And I'm a graduate of the U.S. Naval War College. Up here is my wife, Leslie. I want to see the arms up again. I met her at Marquette University in August of 1984 and has been my dearest friend ever since. And I'm going to talk about my family a little bit at the end. So normally when I publicly speak, especially at CENTCOM, you have to have that attention gainer, right? Tell a joke, bring the people in, have that bonding moment, put you at ease. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to get your attention tonight because I think about 3 weeks ago, Afghanistan got all of our attention. As someone who was actually involved in the planning for those 18 nations, I can tell you that was not the way it was sequenced, and it has never been sequenced that way. And what's going to affect us now going forward for the next 12 to 18 months geopolitically concerns me greatly. And if you have questions about that at the end, I'm happy to talk about it. But that's going to destabilize a lot of things around the world. But this race isn't just about the geopolitical conditions we're going to be facing in the future months. It's also about the cultural issues we're going to be facing over the several months. Not just domestically in the United States. This contagion is global, and we've got to put that back in the bottle. Now, I feel so strongly about this. We are the last Christian nation of consequence in the world. That is a fact. Doesn't mean we're strong. It just meant that everyone else got weaker. But as our faith goes, so goes the free world. Judeo-Christian values are what grounded the greatest societies in the history of the world. I feel so strongly about it. I wrote a book about it in 2015, and I wasn't even running for Congress. My wife gave me 4.5 months, at the end of 2015. The whiteboards had to go out of the living room. So either you write that book or you stop talking about it. So I published this book, Broken Arrow, Christ's Last Stand, in January of 2016. Since then, it has found its way into many people's hands, including some gentlemen out of Dallas, Texas, who are high operators in the GOP. And so when Jody decided not to run, my phone rang, and it was basically told, put up or shut up. So my wife and I talked. We're in this race for the fight. This country is worth fighting for. Writing a book is not enough. Amen. So we're in it for the long haul. So when I tell you that I used to craft U.S. policy in the Middle East, and I look at our nation, we have so many problems. I mean, goodness gracious, right? Innumerable problems. I'm telling you right now, and I think my crafting team, if they were here with me right now, would agree with me. They said, Colonel Swan, that sounds solid to me. There are 3 issues right now in this country that if we address these, they will set conditions for the nation and allow those other problems to start to self-correct. They are this, in this order: border security, the economy, and education and culture. And I link education and culture because our education right now really dictates and drives our culture. Now, I'll explain why I say those. As a Marine, I've spent an awful lot of time on board ship. And maybe some of you have been on a complex ship. Maybe someone's been on a cruise ship. When you look at those vessels, there is a lot of systems on them. Navigation, communication, the mess hall. You've got freshwater purification units. All of those systems are there for the main reason of taking care caring for the needs of the passengers and the crew. But I'm going to tell you this, regardless of how big that ship is or how complex it is, it better have 3 absolute musts or everything else is useless. The whole ship is useless. What do you have to have? You have to have hull integrity. If you don't have hull integrity, you're sinking. You need to have propulsion of some sort, whether a sail or an engine, but if you don't have propulsion, you're floundering and you're going wherever the winds and the currents push you. And the last thing you absolutely must have is steerage, because steerage is the mechanism by which you get to determine your destiny. I'm at point A, I want to get to point B. If you don't have steerage, you don't have control of where you're going. So let's take that back to our nation right now. Hull integrity is border security, period. Every nation in the world secures their borders. When you don't, and this administration is not, we are hemorrhaging at the border at a record rate. And across the border is coming disease, drugs, human trafficking. Yeah, human trafficking is the thing. We're #1 in the country here in Georgia for that. I've also got good old-fashioned illegals, terrorists, and gangs. We have to tighten them up. Since 2001, we've been told this is all about our safety, we're concerned about our security, and yet nobody has secured the border since 2001. But I can't walk you down to the gate to say goodbye to the airlines. Come on. #2. One thing I want to touch on the borders. When we do secure those, keep in mind, we still have a lot of spillage that has to be cleaned up. In the 10th district, we need to back our blue through all 25 counties. Because we still have to deal with the drugs, the human trafficking, the terrorists, and those threats. I firmly believe this in my heart, that strong borders go hand in hand with safe communities. Now let's talk about propulsion for a second. The economy is our propulsion. It drives everything. It pays for everything, from Social Security to all other programs. When the economy is strong, life gets better for all of us, individually and collectively. Not equally, because we're capitalists, right? But when the economy gets stagnant and declines, well, life gets worse for all of us. Not, individually and collectively, not equally. Yeah, 1%ers become like 3%ers, Welcome to my world, right? But this administration is going beyond just indifference to our economy.
Yes.
They are literally, in my opinion, sabotaging it, only because no serious-minded nation in the world that has achieved energy independence would actively decide we want to be energy dependent on other countries. We need 4 things to live this day. We need water, we need food, we need air, but because of our modern lives, we need electricity. And that's why everyone's worried about our grid and EMP strikes. No one would have doubled the cost of something we so desperately need. Now, the other thing about our economy that is special to us here in the tent. So there's things we can do to set the conditions as a nation. But getting back to pre-COVID levels, this district now is 25 counties. We're our own nation state. We have the full spectrum of industry now. We're not just ag. Everyone needs food, right? From your food source. We have everything from education, manufacturing, industrial textiles. We have technology. We have finance. We have medical. My wife the other day, she said, don't forget entertainment. I'm like, entertainment? She goes, yeah, we make movies here now. I'm like, oh, yeah. But when you think about that broad spectrum of industry, we are reliant on the rest of the nation coming back. We don't need just 1 or 2 sectors to come back. We need the full spectrum. And of course, we have so many small businesses in this community that all need that help. In addition to energy, the other reason I say it's been sabotaged is you never pay someone not to work. It goes against the whole invention of money. Money is a proxy for labor. It was actually developed so when you worked, you could monetize that, get this proxy of money and save it, then spend it as you saw fit on other people. You never, ever created money so someone could sit at home on their sofa watching Price is Right and have it rain on them. The last component I want to talk about is steerage. And that is absolutely education and culture, and they're linked. Right now, we are so off course where we were as a nation. We all know we're off course, but even more scary is we have no idea where we're going. What is the final destination of this ship? The Department of Education, when I get up there, it has to be eliminated. I mean eradicated. I don't want to talk about it. We're not going to downsize it. We're not going to reorganize it. We're not going to get the black belt quality assurance team in there and say, what can we do better? Here's why it has to go. When I graduated high school in 1983, we were #1 in the world for education and had been for over 100 years. This nation was famous for it. Hell, we went to the moon in 1960, said 5 more times, just to tell the world, oh, we can do this all day, but then we invented the space shuttle. We are 25th in the world right now for math, reading, and science. I'll say that again for those in the back, 25th. Now, I know the Department of Education came along in 1979, but the thing was, they were just a paper agency. They had no structure, they had no personnel, they had no programs, no written table of organization, they weren't plugged in. So a lot of us still got to slip through because we still had our state educators. We are getting no return on investment whatsoever up there.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, the thing that I want to share with you on that, Paul disagrees?
No,
All right, Paul. Paul's on board, man. That's one. Who else is on my team? But one of the things is that our schools don't spend enough time now on those competencies. What we teach our kids today in the classroom as competencies and skills will determine where this country is in 10, 20, 30 years. That's a fact. So one of the things I want to see is I want to see more actual engineering in the classroom and a whole lot less social engineering.
That's
I want to see a lot more reading and a whole lot less feeling. And I also want to see faith-based curriculum in our schools. That is necessary. Now, for some of the more affluent families whose kids are hitting those high school years, they can't afford to send their kids to Prince or Athens Christian or Westminster. But man, if they had an opportunity for their kids to get college credit in an elective course from freshman to senior year, get 24 college credits, there's a program out there that will do that for us and get that in all 25 counties. That will actually help retention for some of our schools and help those kids put on that faith armor before they step off into college. So like me, I know a lot of you, we see the world with a Christian world view. And I absolutely resent that I have a school system waging a culture war against the very family values that we nurture in our homes.
Exactly right.
Cultural shared values are what build nations. Diversity, never in the human history has that ever been a strength. You find things that unite us. We talked about the military tonight. What unit were you in? That unit comes from many one. We can be different, but we have to unite. Now, that is so critical to our culture. I cannot have a bunch of liberal DC bureaucrats determining what those values will be for our nation. That comes from us, and that's why we need to control our education program here. Now, I said at the end I would talk about my children for a little bit. I'll talk about my family. I say this to the end for a reason. Some of you know my story, some of you do not. But last month, my youngest child, Samantha, turned 21. She was born in August of 2000. She had a cord graft down here at Athens Regional. Her heart stopped beating in the womb, and by the time they did the C-section, got her out, put her on a table, hit the clock, it was 25 minutes before she had her first heartbeat. So my daughter is very involved. She lives in a wheelchair, can't walk, talk, feed herself, bathe herself. She is totally dependent on the good care and benefits of other people. Now, obviously, as a parent, you get great empathy for other parents that have special needs children. But one of the other things you get a lot of empathy for are handicapped individuals in their adult years trying to have independent living, not just special needs. I'm thinking of those veterans. You know, we have veterans now in their 40s that lost both legs, an arm, half their torso from the battles in 2001 and 2002 and 2003. That's how long this war's been going. I have great empathy for the elderly and the people that need help from the system. I have zero patience for anyone who sits at home, gets a paycheck because they want to play like they're handicapped. I resent it. daughter would do anything, and I would pay anything for her to be able to push a mop around a place, and she'd probably be grinning going, come on through, I'll get that. Just keep walking. I'm happy to have a job. Now, my second child, Andrew. I retired from the Marines in 2017. I deployed 6 years of my children's life. When I made Colonel 06 in 2008, I did not return back to Athens for 4 years. My kids were 12, 10, and 8 when I left, 16, 14, and 12 when I got back. If I hear one politician whine about those lag trips up to Washington, D.C. to put in a few weeks, I'm going to get ugly. But my son was very upset with me. He had just graduated at Athens Academy. And he was going to run track at Rhodes College. And I said, son, what's on your heart? You can tell when teenagers are angry with you. And he got in my grill, and he said, Dad, I feel like you chose the Marine Corps over us. You know, you and Mom got divorced, and I really needed you here. You weren't here. You didn't see me run football. You didn't see me graduate. You didn't see this and that and this birthday and Mom. I said, son, I'm retiring in 10 days. We have the rest of our lives as men. We're going to create great memories. I'm going to move you into college and see you run at collegiate level. I retired one June. He fell off a skateboard June 3rd, crushed the back of his skull. He succumbed to his head trauma on the 5th, and his organ saved the lives of 3 adults. Nothing will shake you down to the foundation of your soul than something like that. But here's the takeaway I want to share with all of you. Do not live in the future. Don't tell yourself, yeah, the country really needs me to fight for it right now, but it's not a good time. It's never a good time to have kids, get married, or fight for the country. But that time has come. I don't know how many more tomorrows this country has. So we need to get engaged right now. And the final child I'll talk about briefly is Matthew. When one son died in June of 2017, the other one got a taste for some addiction things because he didn't want to live anymore. And you can't pray that out, you can't logic it out, you can't hug it out, and you can't even threaten it or bribe it out of him. It's just something you go through. He's doing better now. It's been a few years, but I'll tell you what, there's families across this country. These opiates, this is very similar to the opium war of China back in the 1800s. I kid you not. This has to be dealt with. So I'm going to close with this. I share that story not because I'm looking for sympathy, but I know this. You're all looking for a fighter. God knows I'm looking for one. If I saw someone in this race more qualified than myself, I would literally write them the $5,800. Leslie would write them the next check for $5,800 because it would be less painful for us, and we know that we did everything possible for the country. You want to honor those guys that fought for the last 20 years? Give them some decent leadership so they're not making videos on YouTube asking for someone in Washington to be held accountable. Our elected representatives, which I'd like to be, are supposed to be their advocate. You go forward, I'll put up the stink. I'll be the watchdog, you be the guard dog. Amen? Amen. But I will tell you, there's some good men in this race. But I believe that I have the leadership, the experience, the education, the drive. I have been through the furnace of affliction. You want to find a fighter that's been battle-tested? I've been in the deserts. I've dealt with death. I've dealt with disabilities. I've dealt with drugs. I'm not saying I'm unbreakable, but I've been tempered pretty darn hard. And I'm real upset because this whole idea that I fought for socialism does not set well with me.
Yes, yes.
And in my military, back when I joined, we wanted trigger pullers. Now I'm worried about trigger words and trigger symbols and trigger pronouns. Give me a break. In closing, Donald Trump, in 4 years, was the most effective president we've ever had in our lifetime. In 9 months, to date, Joe Biden is the least effective, most destructive president we've ever had. 4 years of accomplishments by Trump, who faced a headwind, took him down completely in 7 months, and then spent the last 2 months undoing 20 years of treasure and sacrifice in the Middle East, and specifically Afghanistan. This has to end. So I'm going to ask you to join my team. Text 22999. Donate heavily. Donate it. Maybe not like your life depends on it, but your grandkids does. All right? So anyways, I'm Colonel Mitchell Swan. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Yep, we're gonna take 5 minutes each. Okay, we'll let since Mitch is up there, we're gonna let him go first, and then we'll bring Jenny back and ask her whether we're trying to be equal, fair. Okay. You got questions for Colonel Swan?
By the way, I'll just add before you go, Paul, I brought these books, there's 10 in the back. If you want to give Gordon and the GOP of Athens $10, I'll sign it for you. This is the long rant, okay? But I'd be happy to do that. They're in the back. What have you got for me, Paul?
Where do you stand on vouchers? You know, one thing I thought of in Clarke County, if we had vouchers, the value of all our property would jump up significantly.
Yeah, it's a true
Because
story.
everybody moves.
You're talking about
to Clarke
education,
County,
right?
and because of the education.
And you're talking about education vouchers, right?
Yes, for
Yeah,
younger
sure.
kids, yeah.
Okay, well, a few things about that. Yes, I believe in freedom of medication as much as I do education, and people should have those choices. The last thing I'll say is, there is no good schools. I'm sorry. If you look at 25th in the world for math, reading, and science, if this was a division of football or baseball, we're in the 25th division. I'd rather be in the first division than my kids going to the 25th school up there. Parents tell me, oh no, Oconee, man, it's #1. It's so competitive to get into UGA now. My kids went to the #1 school, still have to go to UNG. And then when they get there as freshmen, guess what they take? Remedial math and English. We need to do better in our schools.
Yes.
So vouchers are great. Ultimately, I want the Department of Education of Georgia to dictate how we're going to teach our kids and get back to fundamentals.
Another question?
Not even where China's going to be like in 12 months? Seriously?
Well, no, really, my question would be, what do you see as the biggest fallout from what we did in Afghanistan?
Okay, sure.
My mind wraps around so many things.
All right, so there are going to be a lot of dominoes that fall. So let me just roll back, because there's a lot of parallels between what just happened now and the fall of Saigon in 1975. You know, in the fall of Saigon, we were war weary, right? That was only 10 years. Imagine 20 years. And so we pulled out. Very sloppy, very ugly. We lost the South. Okay. But what else was going on around the world in 1975? Iran was one of our best partners. Women could wear skirts, dresses, drive convertibles, and go to school. They had the highest education in that region, highest literacy rate. In 1978, a couple revolutionaries didn't like the Shah so much. He was the last monarch of Persia. So when he called the U.S. for some help, like, hey, can you help me out over here? I mean, we are great friends. We're like, no, I think we think you got it. But if it gets ugly, we'll send you a plane. And in January of 1979, the Shah was relieved of his duties. And we lost it. But look at that nation now. Women are in burqas. They don't drive. They don't drive anything, right? And they're not even a partner of ours anymore. They're a partner with Russia. But if you want to look at other dominoes, look at the South Pacific. So we actually built the Silk Road over there in Afghanistan. And now China gets to go in there. They're going to take over Bagram airfield, but they're also going to get all those minerals. They'll go into the Taliban. The people will get nothing. They'll give them a bag of gold and say, I just want to get all that zinc and all that copper and all that coal. And then I'm going to use those nice roads you built and the traditional old routes of trade from antiquity that we refurbished. And they're going to take them back to China, make products, and then move them back out to the world through those arteries of trade. That takes them right down to the warm water ports through Pakistan. So they're going to make a lot of money. Now, think if you're India. They're our best little partner over there. They got China on their east. They got Pakistan to the north. And they're like, man, this stinks. But at least the U.S. is in the neighborhood. Oh, no, now you got your other enemy backing up your other enemy. It's going to get weird. So I expect them to start to really throw their elbows around in the South China Sea. And they're also going to start encroaching a lot more in South America. People are like, are they in South America? You know, we built the Panama Canal. Who owns it? The Chinese do. That's what we have to ask to use the canal that we dug. They're going to encroach down there a whole lot more. So we will be tested. One more. Yes, sir.
Given your rank and the number of years that you took out of your life to serve our country, I figure you probably have a pretty good handle on what's going on in the Pentagon, especially the general staff. Are they that screwed up? I mean, we seem to be focusing on CRT and doing the politically correct thing to do. I know lawyers are involved in war now, which is nuts. Right? Is it just we've got a bad bunch of officers that eventually they'll wash out? Or
We have, all right, so we have different officers, right? So we had an administration a few years ago who decided they were going to look for a certain slant in senior leadership, and that's why we have so many, you know, LGBTQ openly serving, and we've gotten so woke, and, you know, this and that and the other thing. So there's certainly that political slant. A lot of them became Democrats and Republicans weren't picked. I understand that. That's the nature of the thing. But no, they're not that stupid. There's not a captain in logistics in the Marine Corps that doesn't know that you pull out the aircraft last after the Americans are out. But what is top secret, see, there's things that you brief to the senior leaders of this country, they're really not secrets, but the fact that you shared it, if you told them what you shared, they know if you went against, if they made a decision against your advice. And that's what's top secret. So, yeah, the Pentagon, too many civilians there, I will tell you that though. The GS employees have taken out an organization over a long time ago. All right, thank you all very much.